Hello everyone, welcome to week 2 of our AI plus data beginner course. So last week we set up Python, explored the basics, and learned about lists, variables, functions, and basic data exploration. This week we are going to dive deeper into Python data structures, learn more about reading and exploring datasets, and manipulate our data so that we can get useful insights. So before we explore our data further, it's important we understand how Python organizes information, right? Last week we saw lists, but now we're going to learn about dictionaries, which is another way to store data in Python. We do have other data structures such as sets, tuples, and many more, but we're mainly going to look at dictionaries and lists. You can always search up all the other data structures and get insights on those. So, what we have when we have dictionaries. So our dictionaries, like we said, right, it's another way for us to store information. It can store that in key value pairs. What do we mean when we say key value pairs, right? We have a key and then we have a value. So for example, look at this. This is, I've named the variable myDict, and then this one is going to contain the dictionary. So as you can see, we have these curly braces, an opening and a closing. And then inside, that's where we have items that are separated by a comma. So the first item that we have, name, this one, where we have a string here saying name. This is our key. Then we separate it by the colon. Then we have Rob. So Rob is the value. So that's why I'm saying we store them as key value pairs. We have to have a key first, followed by its value. So over here we have surname, then we have Trimo. DOB, then we have 1964. So key value pairs. That's what we have. So how can we access the items that we have in our dictionary? So for instance, over here, I can come in and say print, then open my brackets and reference the variable myDict. Then using the square brackets, I have to put in the name of the key that I want to access. So in this instance, I want to access this value, Rob. So I have to use the key. The key is name. So when I write it like this and then I come in and run it, and let's just give it a moment. As you can see, we have a Rob over there. So if I come in here and I change this and I put in, what did I do there? Okay, let me try to. Oh, it seems like I can't. Okay, it's fine. Let's just leave it. Just coming in right. Print. We reference the dictionary myDict over there. Then our square brackets, right? Then we come in with the name, the key name there. We want DOB now. Let's write it like that. Then you see it gives me 1964. So that's the first thing that we can do, how we can access items. It's not the only way we can access item, but then this is one of the easier ones. Or not easier, maybe the introductory ones rather. If I say easier, I'll be lying. Maybe yes. Then how can we add items to our dictionary? Right, so how can we add items? So what we want to do, we want to add items using the key. So we have, like in this dictionary, so we can actually store a lot of information, right? The name, surname, DOB, and all that. Maybe we want to also store the ID of that person. It's not there already. So how do we do it? We come in and write it like this. We say myDict. This is the myDict, right? This is the dictionary. Then we put in the square brackets. Then we have to put in the key that we want to add, and in this case it's ID. It's text, right? It's going to be it's a string. Then it's going to have this opening quotation and closing quotation marks. Then we write ID. Then we assign it with this value, which is again a string. Our ID, we are writing it as a string, is 345-567R. So this is what we have added. So we've added this item, and to just verify that the item has been added, I'm coming in here and I'm printing myDict. Then I print it there. Then as you can see, the dictionary has the name, surname, DOB, and look, we also have an ID that has been added. We also have a new key and value pair added. This is what we added. So something that I forgot to mention, our dictionary, they are ordered. When it comes to dictionaries, they are ordered, they are changeable, and they cannot have duplicates. So we can't have a duplicate in here. We have order, and they are changeable. So in previous versions, you might find that one of this is not true. I think it's the ordered part. It wasn't like this. But then in the versions that have, I think it's 3.6 and above or 3.7 and above, it's now like this. So these are now its properties that we have for dictionaries. So you can also look at that as well. Then, so when I said we can't have duplicates, right? So that means I can't come in here and add, like when I was adding an item, and add DOB and put something else there. It's not a duplicate, right, of the key that we already have. So how does it deal with that? Instead of coming and adding another DOB over here, it will replace the DOB that was already inside. So you find here, we're now looking at how we can change items. So that's where we're going to experiment with this. The dictionary already has DOB. We already have it there. We can see it in this print statement there. So if we come in and write and put our square brackets and write DOB and we assign a value 2000, then we come in and print. You'll find that it doesn't have two keys that are named DOB. No, it now has one. So the latter here, this one, is what we now have, and this one has been replaced. So that's just the introduction there. Then we also do have what we call nested dictionaries. This is where we have dictionaries inside a dictionary. Yes. So how can this be useful, right? Let's say we want information for a lot of people, right? Here we just had information for Rob. But what if we want to have information for Rob, Tanya, Natasha, and all that? We might have, tiny dictionaries, separate dictionaries inside a big dictionary where we have smaller ones. We have one for Natasha, then we have information for Natasha, one for Tanya, one for Rob, and all that. So we're going to look at it in terms of machinery for this example. Let's say we have our machines. Maybe we might assign IDs to the machines that we have, and we want to have individual information on those machines that include runtime, temperature, vibration levels, and fault flags, right? So we can come in and open our first our outer dictionary, the Kaylee braces, this one over here, which closes with this one over there. Then we come in and add now another dictionary. So how do we create another dictionary? We come in and write, so the key is, we're going to write it as machinery 101. That's our string. We put the colon, and now we're not just going to write one value. We're going to come in and open another set of Kaylee braces, and when we do that, we can now have our nested dictionary. So we come in and write runtime, hours 12, temperature 75, vibration 0.5, fault flags that have been raised 0, and then we are done with the first machine, and then we move on. So we put a comma there. Then we come into the next item. What's the key for this one? We have machinery 102, and then with the value being another dictionary. Then inside there we now have another set. We have other sets of keys and values, right? So here we have a key, we have a value key, value key, value key, value. So this is how we can create a nested dictionary, and you can understand why this one might be useful. If we have information of different vehicles, and it'd be simpler to access them by, for example, if we have the ID of the machine. So let's say we've given our machines IDs. So you can work in different instances. Maybe employees, we have employee IDs. We can put an ID for Grace here. Maybe my ID is 101. We just reference the ID 101. Then maybe we have a reference sheet, or we just know, yes, where we know that this ID belongs to this person. And when we want information about that person, we can come in and just try to retrieve the ID value. Then we get all this information about them, be it that they have given us as a company or any place where you might want to use this. So over here, we could come in and say, right, so how do we now access the items, right? So maybe let's start with something like this. Okay, let's just start with the same that's the. So let's say we already know that we want to access a machine 101's vibration levels, right? This is the ID. So we come in, we have one Kaylee braces with the key, which is machine 101, right? But then don't forget that within this first key, we have other keys inside because it's a nested dictionary. So we come in again and we open another set of square brackets because we want to access vibration. So we have the first key, the outer key, which is machine, and then the inner key, vibration. So in hopes that we can access this value 0.5. So let's run this. We get 0.5. Let's say we just wanted to access everything about machine 101. I would come in there and just reference machine 101 and run that. And as you can see, you get everything about machine 101. So if you want the fault flag, you come in and open another square bracket after this one. Then you write inside fault flag. Then you could access that, right? So I think that's that about nested dictionary. There is a lot more we can do, but I think we're just going to look at this because we are briefly going to have them introduced. We're not going to have them when it comes to our AI. It's mostly going to use that when we're storing the predicted values, actual values, and when we want to see what we have. So this is when we're going to use them. But it is good that you get an introduction to what we are going to use. So what else we have to know about about dictionaries. Dictionaries have what we call methods. If you remember, in last week's lessons when I introduced lists, I talked about how we can add items using append that had the curly brackets at the end. If you remember that, yes. So those things that we're using, I think we also had remove. I'm not sure the other ones that I introduced in the lesson, but then there are a couple of them. Those are called methods. They look like functions, right? Like how we write functions. These are methods, right? We call them methods. So we also have methods in dictionaries. So remember when I said how we can access items, we can access items using this. The first one over here, where we can just say print my dict DOB, right? Yes, we do have another way that we can get those, right? And this is using the method get method. So as an assignment, you can check out how we can do that with get. Then we also have a way to retrieve the keys that we have, right? In the dictionaries, we can use this one, key as well. You can always go ahead and look at that for interest sake. Right, and then now for lists. For lists, I introduced I introduced them in the last lectures with a lot of, I would say, a lot of examples. And then now I just want to add on to that. We also have what we call nested lists. So with nested lists, it's just like what we said with dictionaries. So with nested lists, we have lists inside of a list. So we have this. So let me just try to scroll down there and try to zoom in there. Yes. So as you can see there, we have an outer list, this yellow square bracket, and then we have inner list with the purple pink square brackets over there. So at least I could write it like this, right? Or for you to see it's in a simpler way. Let me just do that like that. We can write it like that. This is the way that we know. Right, we are separating our items using a comma. So we can separate a list, right, inside of a bigger list. So that's what we have. We have our first list here in position 0. That is 1, 2, 3 in this 0. And then the next index is 1. Then this one is 3. So over here, we have in index 1, we have 4, 5, 6. Index 2, we have 7, 8, 9. So this is what we have. And this is a list of lists. So when my people want to use a nested list, let's say you want to represent matrices, right? That's why I had written it like this, so that it's easier to see, right? Because when we deal with matrices, when it comes to math, this is how we usually show matrices. We want to make sure that the number of rows are clear, the number of columns are clear. So where we have 1, this is the first row, second row, third row, right? Like when it comes to matrices, and then this becomes our first column, our second column, or third column. So this is how we might want to use our nested lists. You can use them in any other instances. Maybe you just want to store various lists for whatever purpose you want to use them for. And then in this case, I just chose matrices. Why? Because as part of our workshop, I'm actually going to add something in there, a question for you to create a matrix using a function, and all that. So it's actually a fun exercise, and then this might actually just open up your mind into different methods on how we can use the different types of loops or whatever method you decide to use on to come up with a matrix that looks like this, right? So we can create it like this because we know what values that we have, right? But let's say you just want to make it an open function where you can just say create for me a 3x3 matrix that contains random values or whatever you might want to use that for, but this is how you can do it. So this is what we have for nested lists. And now, how do we access items in a nested list? Remember when we just wanted to access one item in a list, in a normal list that's not nested or anything, we'll just come in and call that variable, right, that list name, and then we'll reference the index of that item that we want. When it comes to nested lists, just like what we're doing with the dictionaries, we have to first look at the mother list, and then we look at the child list. Then what do I mean by that? So we have to look at the position of this list in reference to this outer list, the yellow list. So this one becomes our list that is at index 0. This one is at index 1. This one is at index 2. Then once you choose that, you want, I want this list that is in index 2. All right, within that index 2 list right in here, which item do you want? Do you want the item that is at index 0, that is at index 1, or that is at index 2? So you come in here. So let's say we want the value 9. I would come in and say I want the list that is at index 2. So we come in, this is a 0, this is 1, and this is 2, right? This is where we have 9. Then I come in and say, well, inside that list, right, where do I find 9? 9 I find in the position. Let's see, this is 0, this is 1, and then this is 2. So I come in and reference the 2. So here we have 2 being the one for the outer list, and then this one being the one for the inner list position. Then when we come in and print that, we can get 9. So thank you for watching. I do hope that you do give this a try. You should try this with different, I would say, with different examples and all that. Yeah. So thank you. Bye.